This picture you're about to see is the first cinematic study of the preparation, arrival, and establishment of permanent cover for secret agents.
First on our list, we have the recent discovery of something incredibly strange found on the side of the International Space Station. Buckle up. In October of 2023, a leak was detected in the station's backup radiator, which forced Russian cosmonaut Oleg Kononenko to strap on a spacesuit and take a zero-gravity walk outside to try and figure out what was causing the issue. When the 59-year-old space enthusiast arrived at the radiator panel, he made a shocking discovery. It appeared as though a series of sporadic holes had been drilled onto the panel. Oleg reported his findings and then began tending to the leak, collecting those loose liquids through a suction tool, until all of a sudden he noticed a strange globule of what appeared to be coolant make its way onto his safety tether. He relayed the event to Moscow Mission Control, who responded demanding that he return to the interior of the ISS immediately. While it was most likely just an anti-gravity ball of coolant, we really have no idea what the mysterious glob was. Furthermore, and perhaps even more concerning, scientists, astronomers, astronauts, and cosmonauts alike are completely baffled as to what caused the leak in the first place and left behind a collection of deep holes in the panel's surface. Next on our list, we have radio transmitted and laser messages received by NASA coming from deep space. The communications took place for the first time in November of 2023 and have continued into this year after NASA launched the Psyche spacecraft out in the hopes of locating a comet by the same name. As the spacecraft moves along its journey, it has been in frequent communication with NASA officials on the ground. The first communication came in the form of a deep space optical communication, a laser signal, and was detected from 10 million miles away from Earth. On January 1st of this year, NASA researchers were able to use radio frequencies on the spacecraft at 20 million miles away to download a photograph of the Psyche team at a rate of 15.36 megabytes per second, which is 40 times faster than the standard radio frequency. The hope for Psyche is that it will be able to remain in communication with the Earth even at a distance of 2.5 times that of our Sun, which would be about 186 miles as it continues its search for its namesake comet. Next up, we have the long-awaited release of legitimate UFO findings taken by US Navy pilots, and they were declassified by the Pentagon in early 2023. Among the releases were two videos depicting multiple UFOs or UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. The first of which was taken in South Asia on the 15th of January and depicts an unidentified aerial presence moving at speeds unreachable by any known aircraft in commission to date. Not only that, but as the object whizzed through the field of view of the camera lens, it appeared to have left behind some kind of atmospheric wake before it disappeared completely into the sky. The next video showcased a suspicious object after it had been seen dropping 80 feet from the sky right down to the surface of the ocean in record-breaking time. The pilot who filmed the UAP reported that the waters which the object had come close to appeared to have been boiling. When the possible extraterrestrial spacecraft finally came back into view, it was captured hovering above the water and then disappearing swiftly into the atmosphere, leaving behind no wake in the oceans below, despite its close proximity to the water during its acceleration. As the name implies, to this day the objects seen in these videos remain completely unidentified and a total mystery. history. Next up, we have the leaked, top-secret United States intelligence documents that were obtained and summarized by the Washington Post on April 27th of 2023. The documents revealed United States concerns about rival space threats in regards to modern warfare. With space technology becoming as advanced as it has in the past few years, the United States is concerned with how other countries, including China, might integrate those advances into their military and defense systems. In one of the leaked documents, this worry was highlighted when it was said that China had developed the capacity to put United States and allied space assets at risk. A corresponding document had also stated that if the China-Taiwan conflict were to escalate, the United States fears that China would exercise their capacity and begin targeting the atmospheric assets as a way to deter Taiwanese allies from coming to their aid. Up next, at our halfway point today, we have the Apollo 1 fire, which occurred on January 27th in 1967 and is forever earmarked as the first of many incredibly dark days in NASA's controversial history. The fire took place during a pre-flight test for the spacecraft, during which a flash fire broke out inside the command module, likely sparked by an electrical short that took place under one of 3 astronaut on board's footrests. The capsule in which Gus Grissom, Edward White, and Roger Chafe were seated in excited anticipation was filled with pure oxygen, making the environment highly combustible. When the module sparked, the area was engulfed in flames, and due to the nature of the exits, the 3 men were unfortunately unable to escape and passed inside the ship, leading to the extreme government scrutiny of the space agency, along with public outrage and demands for significant design and engineering modifications in regards to safety. Next on our list, we have the incredibly imbecilic incident in which a simple mistake caused $193.1 million and countless hours of work spent on an orbital satellite to go quickly, swiftly, and embarrassingly down the drain. The incident occurred in 1993 when NASA, in partnership with Lockheed Martin Astronautics, designed and built the Mars Climate Orbiter, a 338-kilogram robotic spacecraft designed to investigate climate on Mars by collecting data from the planet's surface and atmosphere. Now here's where things get dumb. The mission was a complete failure due to nothing other than the fact that the engineers working at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory used the metric system of meters and millimeters, while at the Lockheed Institute they used feet, inches, and pounds. Because of this, the orbiter's measurements were way off, and upon arrival at Mars, which I'm surprised it even made it to, the spacecraft became too close to the planet's atmosphere, which caused it to burn up and completely disintegrate. I mean, I know it's rocket science, but come on, guys. Next up, we have another great example of how NASA essentially just bleeds money because of the most basic mistakes. In this case, an extra $50 million had to be spent fixing an error made on a mirror attached to the Hubble Space Telescope after they had already spent almost $1.5 billion to build it, and after they'd already sent it into space. The issue was brought to light when the incredibly advanced telescope designed to capture high-quality images of distant stars and galaxies was sending back blurry ones that looked more like they had been taken with an old Nokia than a $1.5 billion piece of space equipment. It was quickly determined that the reason for these lackluster images was a manufacturing error, which had produced one of the telescope's light-reflecting mirrors incorrectly. A simple miscalculation had led to the curve of the mirror being completely incompatible with the rest of the telescope. In order to fix this very expensive mistake, a correction team was sent to the telescope where they installed a series of small mirrors designed to correct the flaws in the original. Luckily, the mission was a complete success, and since then, the space telescope has become one of the most precise and productive observatories in our planet's history. Next on the list, we have a devastating tragedy that resulted in the deaths of 7 individuals and a 29-month suspension of the NASA Space Shuttle program and a serious reevaluation of procedures. The event took place on February 1st of 2003 after Space Shuttle Columbia had been sent to the Hubble so that its team could perform yet another servicing of the telescope, in this case replacing an aging power control unit, removing and installing solar arrays, and conducting instrumental upgrades. The mission seemed like a success until Columbia began its re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, during which the space shuttle disintegrated, ending the lives of all 7 astronauts aboard the ship. Another tragic day in NASA's history that holds many similarities to a previous disaster that took place just 17 years prior, in which the 7 astronauts of the Challenger met a similar fate shortly after takeoff. The shuttle disintegrated in an explosion, most likely caused by a failed O-ring seal on one of the solid rocket boosters. While the news of these kind of accidents are definitely not something NASA as a company wants to be making headlines, it's incredibly important that the public have access to this information so that we're able to push push for more extensive testing of spacecrafts and much better safety precautions on future expeditions. Okay, you guys, for these last 2 points, we're gonna air out the room a little bit and do a complete 180 because I want to leave you on a high note. So starting off our top 2 today, we have the fact that astronauts actually drink their own pee. No, I'm not making this up. I suppose when you are sitting some 250 miles away from the nearest oceans or streams, liquids tend to be in short supply. So naturally, NASA figured out a way to recycle urine into fresh drinking water for the cosmonauts and astronauts aboard the ISS, the International Space Station. If you're drinking lemonade right now, you might want to put it down as I explain this next part. The ISS residents' urine is distilled through a process called the urine processor assembly, in which vacuum distillation is used to gather the water from the waste, leaving behind something called urine brine. I actually cannot believe my job has me talking about fractionated pee right now, but hey, all in the name of entertainment, right? I'd cheers to that, but not right now. And finally, for our last point today, we have something that might just be more out there than our last point, if that's even possible. I don't know, I'll leave it up to you. How do I phrase this? Have you ever wanted to do it on the moon? Well, if you have, you'll probably think this next guy is a complete legend, because while he didn't actually do it on the astronomical body of the moon, Thad Roberts certainly had an astronomical experience with a body on 600 pounds of moon rocks that he had stolen from the NASA space agency. 600 pounds of moon rocks valued at $21 million, by the way. That's like committing grand larceny 4,200 times and then doing it on the loot. The worst part of all this is that the moon rocks were supposed to be studied by scientists, but it seems his specimen ruined their specimen. Roberts was charged and convicted for his crimes, sentenced to 100 months, 8 years in federal prison. Upon release, Roberts promised to keep his hands and other things off of the space agency's important artifacts, but he also made a point to say that he in no way regretted his actions. To start us off, I want to get into what exactly the Illuminati is, because the definition has changed over the years. Originally, the Illuminati referred to the Bavarian Illuminati, a confirmed secret society that did in fact operate between the years 1776 and 1785. The organization was founded by a German law professor who believed strongly in Enlightenment practices, and it was composed of like-minded individuals. Together, the men of the Bavarian Illuminati, many of whom held positions of power within their society, worked together to spread their beliefs and influence politics. Originally, the group was comprised of just 6 to 9 men, but they had big dreams, and they really did want to take over the world, which was proved in some of the writings of former members. On record, at its peak, the organization had somewhere between 650 to 2,500 members, many of which were known to infiltrate other organizations in order to recruit individuals to join their secret society. As far as official history is concerned, however, the group disbanded sometime in the 1780s, but personally, I'm not so sure. Today we see a different version of the Illuminati, kind of shrouded in satanic symbols and celebrity influence.
But are the Illuminati even human, or at least all human? Some people don't think so. Since around the late 70s, extraterrestrial beings have been brought into the New World Order conspiracies. The idea is that beings from other planets or parallel dimensions, like the classic Greys, play a big part in controlling and shaping our world. Stan Deyo, Milton, William Cooper, and David Icke talk about alien conspiracies a lot. The movie They Live is basically this idea brought to the big screen. The idea that aliens have infiltrated everything from politics to advertising and have been involved in brainwashing us since who knows when. Some think that since the dawn of time aliens have been around. And what's the end goal? Well, maintaining power, or they're in the final stages of their plan to reveal themselves and just outright enslave us all. There's also a less extreme idea that those at the top, aka the Illuminati, just work alongside extraterrestrial beings, which is all hidden from the public by a government cover-up enforced by Men in Black type agents working in these covert government agencies, which has sometimes been referred to as Majestic 12. This agency collaborates with alien occupation, allowing alien abductions in exchange for assistance in developing advanced military technology tested at places like Area 51.
Next up, let's talk about the Illuminati's drive and ability to control the world. Whether or not the Illuminati still exists, the Bavarian Illuminati did, as I said, an incredibly good job at influencing society. Probably because it was made made up of many dukes and other leaders, as well as authors and well-respected members of society. The Bavarian Illuminati promoted the idea of free thinking and liberation from both religious and political oppression, bringing forth a new wave of societal ideals that gravitated away from the Catholic Church rather than towards it, which is likely why many people believe that the organization found its roots in Satanism, and why today so many people associate the use of satanic images and symbols with the group. If the Illuminati does still exist, there are two possible options. Well, really there are endless possibilities, but these two seem like the most likely one. The Bavarian Illuminati is just as it has always been, rooted in beliefs of enlightenment and free thinking, composed of people with relatively good intentions and the power to spread those beliefs in both social and political sectors. Or two, it has evolved to include many malevolent players who now use the group's influence to promote a darker ideology and belief system that is centered around lack of individuality, identity crises, and consumerism, which distract us as a society from taking a critical look at the real issues, such as the growing divide between the lower and upper class. So is it a good group gone bad? Is it a group that no longer exists? I don't know. If you know, let me know.
So I brought up how aliens could be assisting the Illuminati in developing highly advanced technology, but there's another aspect to the whole technology thing, that they also suppress advanced technology, keeping it from being used by the general public. Stuff that would benefit society is intentionally withheld to maintain the status quo, only being used by the top 1%. This could include advancements in renewable energy, medical treatments, the list goes on. Powerful groups like the Illuminati could also be actively suppressing technology that could enhance personal freedoms and undermine surveillance and control, like encryption tools. I mean, this is really dark, but there is some logic to this, especially when it comes to the idea of suppressing advanced medicine. I mean, what better way to control people than by keeping them sick, right? If you have a population that's too happy and too healthy, they're less reliant on you.
So at the beginning of today's video, we talked a bit about how the Bavarian Illuminati had a propensity for infiltrating other organizations in an effort to recruit new members into their own group. Well, one of the main organizations infiltrated by the Bavarian Illuminati were actually the Freemasons, another tight-knit influential group made up of powerful, wealthy men living under the umbrella of a secret society with a lot of speculation. And so subsequently many members of the Bavarian Illuminati, or BI if you will, just so happened to be former Freemasons or former members of other similar organizations. Becoming a member of the BI wasn't something a person could simply sign up for. It was more like a recruitment process. Today, if the group still exists, the process would likely be the same, but it is unlikely that the organization would be recruiting reckless celebrities and influencers. Why? Well, because it goes against pretty much everything the secret society stands for, which is quiet and purposeful influence that promotes enlightened free thinking. Most likely members of the organization, should it stand today, would include political leaders, bank owners, and maybe a few level-headed celebrities, if those even exist. In general, the celebrities we see using this satanic and eyeball imagery that we as a society have chosen to associate with the Illuminati organization are doing so as a way to create an air of mystery in order to garner attention for themselves and likely to troll the general public. And who knows, maybe some of them are Satanists, but whether or not that has anything to do with the Illuminati, I don't know. Also, this is not sponsored by the Illuminati, just in case you're wondering.
So I talked about the Illuminati suppressing technology and medicine in order to maintain control, and many think that this could also involve the food industry. I mean, dear God, the amount of conflicting info we hear about foods that cause cancer, foods that don't. This diet is the healthiest. No, this one is. This one food is slowly killing you, so you gotta eat this. There's like so much contradictory, confusing noise out there when it comes to nutrition. No wonder we have an obesity crisis on our hands. And is it possible things are made to be intentionally confusing? I mean, maybe. It's I'm not gonna even blame the experts or fitness influencers themselves either. I mean, they're just relaying what they've been told. At the end of the day, nutrition is way simpler than it often seems, with the countless articles and videos and news stories that really seem to be made in order to keep people in the dark about how to actually get healthy.
Next, we have the theory that the modern-day branch of the Bavarian Illuminati, or whatever the organization has mutated into, is in global control of the world's financial institutions, which isn't hard to believe if you're already on board with the idea that 1. The Illuminati exists, and 2. Its members are some of the most wealthy individuals, including bank owners. I mean, it just makes sense, and it's really not that far-fetched either. Why wouldn't the world's elite band together to control finances as they see fit? Is it right? Probably not, but is it likely? Maybe. Many people believe that the Rothschilds, a wealthy banking family, are in fact members of the Illuminati, and that they control the City of London, the US Federal Reserve, and most of mainstream media. I mean, we know propaganda exists, and we know that some reporters aren't above taking bribes. All of the pieces are technically in place for both this organization and its control over global finances to exist. There's no question. The only question is, did they take those pieces and run with it?
So what if the Illuminati aren't human nor extraterrestrial? What if they're actually creatures from deep below the earth? Reptilians. Yes, the theory is that a bunch of shape-shifting reptilian humanoids known as reptilians control the earth and manipulate human affairs for their own gain. These reptile creatures can take on human form in order to blend in and work in powerful positions in governments or corporations, so they have quite the resume. Some people even think a lot of celebrities are just reptilians wearing skin suits, so they got some talent. Again, their ultimate goal is to establish a totalitarian new world order where they have absolute control over humanity. But where do these scaly menaces actually come from? Below the Earth's surface, reptilians are often part of the hollow Earth theory, living in dark caverns beneath the Earth, in advanced technological societies with shape-shifting technology, of course, then crawling out of their hellish pits before assuming the form of an old, wrinkly politician or a hot celebrity.
Next up, we have the theory that the Illuminati not only influences people, but if necessary, they take them out. Many people believe that the Illuminati is responsible for a countless number of deaths of global key figures, including the deaths of John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and even Princess Diana. Why? Well, likely because they oppose the modern-day Illuminati's idea of the perfect world order, and they had enough influence to create a change which members of the organization were not interested in letting happen. It is believed that Illuminati members sitting in some of the highest positions of power have used that power to orchestrate the deaths of anyone, really, who they believed was a threat to the organization, and to the way the organization has brainwashed the public into behaving. Again, it's possible, but for my own safety, I'm gonna go ahead and say it's probably not true. And if you're the Illuminati watching this, it's definitely not true, okay? This entire video is just a joke. Don't hurt me.
And finally, we have the end times. We've talked about a number of possible end goals for the Illuminati, but the darkest one has to be this, that the Illuminati are attempting to fulfill an end times prophecy. So they're basically like a team of Power Ranger villains or Dr. Evil. I've never really understood the evil villains in movies who just wanted to destroy the planet. Like, I get wanting to control it, but destroying it? Like, what are you gonna do after that? Anyway, end times prophecies get tangled up with the Illuminati conspiracy theories quite a bit. The gist is that the Illuminati are pulling the strings behind the scenes to make an end times prophecy come to fruition. We've already mentioned satanic stuff a bit. Maybe that's part of it. There are a lot of conspiracies that involve the Illuminati practicing dark rituals or human sacrifices. All the wars, the economic disasters, the social chaos, it's all to bring about the end times, apparently. I mean, I hope not. I get wanting to control the Earth. I mean, you think if I had enough power, I'd be controlling the Earth. I'd be helping people too, but I'd have like 9 cars, I'd have supermodels around me all the time, I'd have multiple houses, I'd have McDonald's in my house, like Richie Rich.
Raman Manuel. Chicago Mayor Raman Manuel may be a shapeshifter reptile. I'll let you decide. In September 2012, during a press conference, viewers noticed that his eyes seemed to transform into, well, I'm not quite sure I know how to describe this because it's terrifying. Around his eyes, we see darkness of some sort, and suddenly his actual eyes become enlarged. Honestly, whatever happened wasn't human. Did he reveal himself as a shapeshifter reptile? I'm thinking yes. If you're enjoying this video so far, smash that like button as it'll really help us out. In our number 9 spot, we have Timothy Geithner. Former secretary to the treasurer, Timothy Geithner has been accused of being a shapeshifter. Why? Well, because there's some weird footage of him possibly doing just that. Footage was taken of him at a press conference sitting and listening to the speaker when all of a sudden something starts happening to his right eye. A weird pattern that honestly looks like a pattern that you would see on a butterfly wing starts to form around his eye, sort of cupping it. It seems that it happens for a few seconds before he realizes it and tries to cover it up by touching the area, and in an instant, it's gone. No one can deny that the footage is rather odd, especially as he touches the area and poof, it's magically gone. It is super possible that we have a butterfly shapeshifter on our hands. Imagine. If I could be a shapeshifter, that's what I would want to be. Something with wings. Probably a fairy. That would be great. In our number 8 spot, we have US General David Petraeus. On June 15, 2010, the US General David Petraeus appeared to faint during a conference, but at one point though, his face appeared to be, well, not human. The footage of this one does appear to be a tad blurry, but it does seem like something has happened to his face. His face looks like it's, deformed, and the person that was looking at him and talking before he fainted did look a tad scared, but it could have been because he could see something was wrong. So there's that. But also, at one point, somebody stood up and conveniently blocked the camera from seeing him, so that's sus. But honestly, the footage for this one is too blurry for me to say, yeah, probs are reptiles. But the people that filmed it and shared it definitely said that they saw something that day and it did not look human. In our number 7 spot, we have Lady Gaga. Okay, Lady Gaga is an interesting one because there is a video that seemingly shows something going on with her eyes, but also she literally said on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert that she, quote, has always liked to shapeshift. Very sus, Gaga. The viewers of the show thought that it was a very interesting choice of words, and so many thought that there was a bit of truth to what she said, as if the energy around the word held more weight. I don't know. Certainly there are so many people that believe that Lady Gaga has had contact with the devil, and so it would make sense if she was a shapeshifter. Remember that time she suspended something in the air with her magical force field? Okay, but for real, is she a magical devil-like being or a shapeshifter? Would love to know your vote in the comment section below. In our number 6 spot, we have Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle, actress turned literal princess when she married Prince Harry, has had quite some speculation around her over being a robot. Now, I've heard many things, including reptilian, and some people believe something has just, replaced her. But the robot shapeshifter is an interesting theory. It started when a clip went viral over Harry and Meghan wearing masks to promote Madame Tussauds new Harry and Meghan edition. But what made everyone feel the creeps is not just the fact that their facial expressions are unsettling, but also because Meghan is not blinking. Terrifying. Whereas Harry apparently was. Anyways, I think that this got everyone to start theorizing that even though this is a mask, she may actually be a shapeshifter robot, and you know what? I don't blame them. We're probs living in iRobot and don't even know it. In our number 5 spot, we have President Bush. Now, this is a clip of Papa Bush, the 41st president of the US, speaking in an interview, and his eyes seem to change. For those of you who don't live in North America, there is a George Bush Sr. and Jr., and they both became president of the US. Anyways, this clip is of George Sr., aka Papa Bush, and most people are in agreement that he is absolutely a reptilian. I mean, at this point, I'm starting to be convinced that all the politicians are, but who knows? Maybe the whole world is. Maybe I am. Honestly, I wish I could shapeshift. Then I would just shapeshift myself into a passenger that has a ticket to board a flight to Paris and peace out of here. You know what I mean? Anyways, in this clip, his eyes definitely form into slits, and there's no doubt that if this clip is real, and so many say that it is, then, he's definitely not human. In our number 4 spot, we have Eileen Wuornos. Eileen Wuornos, who is known as an American serial killer, did a number of interviews before she was executed on October 9th, 2002. During a number of her interviews, people claimed to have seen some weird shape-shifting happening. This is a clip of an interview that she did where her eyes appeared to show that infamous reptile slit. You know, there is so many people that believe that sometimes shapeshifters are responsible for some of the worst crimes in the world, and then they just, shapeshift out of prison afterwards after taking over the body of humans. That's definitely an interesting theory. I mean, regardless, clearly Eileen was evil, so even if she's not a shapeshifter, I'm sure someone could make a case for her being possessed by a demon. In our number 3 spot, we have Reptile Woman. This woman has been dubbed Reptile Woman for pretty obvious reasons. The footage that was taken of this mystery woman surfaced online and was apparently not altered in any way. The footage seems quite normal until it's broken down frame by frame, and suddenly it's as if you see a different person. Her hands look different, her back, her face, and her eyes. It's fascinating. I personally wish the footage was easier to see, as it's not fully convincing me looking at something so blurry. It just makes me feel like it's been altered, but who knows? I may be wrong, and it sure seems like a lot of people believe that it's real. There have been a few people that have tried to debunk it, and truly I think I'm with them on their analysis. This one is too blurry for me to think that it's possibly real, but whatever. It might be. In our number 2 spot, we have M.W. Jeffrey Black Hodgson. Let's call him Jeff, for short. So Jeff is the Grand Master of the Masons in Massachusetts. Yeah, if you don't know anything about the Masons, then definitely have a Google sesh later tonight. That's a whole other rabbit hole in itself. But yeah, if you know anything about the Masons, then you probably won't be surprised that they are on this list. The Grand Master, the big guy calling the shots, is in this video, and he certainly shows signs of being a shapeshifter. From his eyes suddenly showing slits to his skin apparently showing evidence, there are a lot of people that believe that this guy is a shapeshifter. And in our number 1 spot, we have Britney Spears. Okay, this one I refuse to believe is real, because I love her. God, I do not want to believe it, but the footage certainly makes you think that it's possible that she's a shapeshifter, or that a shapeshifter at some point had taken over her body. That to me would check out more when you think of everything that she has been fighting for recently in terms of her freedom and gaining full control of her body back again. Who knows? Perhaps there is way more to it than we can imagine. I just love her though, so I refuse to believe that she was born a reptile. Anyways, in this shot, her eyes seemingly show slits at times, just like a lot of the other footage that we've shown, and this would point to some kind of reptile living within her.
Mars landers. Viking 1 and 2 were a pair of NASA Mars landers and orbiters that launched in 1975 and arrived in 1976. The orbiters created global maps while the landers examined the surface up close. The landers performed ambitious chemistry experiments to search for life. Tests performed on Martian soil samples by NASA's Viking landers hinted at chemical evidence of life. One experiment mixed soil with radioactive carbon-labeled nutrients, then tested for the production of radioactive methane gas. The test reported a positive result. The production of radioactive methane suggests that something in the soil was metabolizing the nutrients and producing radioactive gas. But other experiments on board failed to find any evidence of life, so NASA declared the result a false positive. Despite that, one of the original scientists and others who have since reanalyzed the data still stand by the finding. They argue that the other experiments on board were ill-equipped to search for evidence of organic molecules, a key indicator of life.
Next up at number 9, we have the Sumerian civilization. The ancient Sumerians were a group of people that suddenly became established in Mesopotamia circa 2900 BCE. No one is quite sure where they came from originally, but they believed and documented that their origins were not from planet Earth. According to ancient texts, the Sumerians were created by an alien race called the Anunnaki, who came to Earth after their planet Nibiru collided with another planet in the solar system. The aliens found themselves in short supply of gold, which they needed in their atmosphere, and saw that Earth was in high supply. So they landed here and created a new species that was half alien, half human, to mine the gold for them. Now,
it does sound a little crazy, but the Sumerians did have advanced scientific, agricultural, and technological knowledge, as well as an acute understanding of the solar system, which was highly advanced at their time. Researchers have recorded clay pot batteries that still contained electrodes, a flyable model airplane, as well as an unexplainable capability to cut large stones with exact precision. Not to mention that rockets, airplanes, and helicopters were all depicted on certain artifacts from the time too. Even stranger is that there is mitochondrial DNA evidence linked to a woman in Africa dating more than 100,000 years back near a gold mine. While of course we might never know for sure, the legend of the Anunnaki has made even some of the biggest skeptics question the reality of aliens.
Number 8. Radio signal received 3 times from the same region of space. In February 2003, astronomers with the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence (SETI) project used a massive telescope in Puerto Rico to re-examine 200 sections of the sky which had all previously yielded unexplained radio signals. These signals had all disappeared except for one, which had become stronger. The signal, widely thought to be the best candidate for alien contact, comes from a spot between the constellations Pisces and Aries, where there are no obvious stars or planets. Curiously, the signal is at one of the frequencies that hydrogen, the most common element, absorbs and emits energy. Some astronomers believe that this is a very likely frequency at which aliens wishing to be noticed would transmit. Nevertheless, there is a good chance the signal is a never seen before natural phenomenon, but I'd like to think that it's aliens.
Coming in at number 7, Vimanas. There are a few ancient epics from India that depict a great battle taking place in the sky. The battle was fought using flying machines of war called Vimanas, and the legend says that they fought against strange creatures that used nuclear-like explosions and weapons that no one had ever seen on Earth before. First off, Vimanas are depicted in multiple texts throughout history, and while we don't know for sure, there are some people that think they could have been real. Manuals with detailed explanation of how they work have been uncovered, and early aircrafts even used knowledge outlined by the mythical flying machines. But what about this alien battle? Well, it allegedly took place in the city of Dwarka, created by Lord Krishna. Dwarka was being attacked from the sky with unknown weapons until finally Krishna fired at the spacecraft until it left the atmosphere. After some time, Krishna then departed Earth and the ocean consumed the city of Dwarka. Now for many years, Dwarka was considered to be a myth. That was until the Archaeological Survey of India established the presence of a submerged city near the temple town of Dwarka and found the remains of a citadel wall and rubbles of a palace about 40 to 60 feet deep in the ocean. So maybe there really was an alien sky battle after all.
Number 6. The Drake Equation. Back in 1961, astronomer Frank Drake devised an equation by which he could estimate the likelihood of the existence of alien life, taking into account a number of factors, including the average number of planets able to support life and the fraction that could go on to support intelligent life. It was made not for the purpose for quantifying the number of civilizations, but as a way to stimulate scientific dialogue at the first scientific meeting on the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI. The equation summarizes the main concepts which scientists must contemplate when considering the question of other radio-communicative life. Although it was devised in 1961, it wasn't implemented until 2001. The result? Statistically, hundreds of thousands of such planets should technically exist. So with all these planets existing, there has to be aliens, right?
Next up at number 5, the Madonna with Saint Giovannino. Dating back to the 15th century, this iconic painting is arguably one of the most debated depictions of alien life on Earth. Likely painted by Domenico Ghirlandaio, I hope I said that right. I mean, there is debate there too, but that's for another story. As you can see, it depicts the Madonna with baby Jesus and St. John. But if you zoom into that top right corner, you'll notice something very strange. There is an unnamed man shielding his eyes from what looks like a bright light in the sky, and beside him is a dog staring up at the same shining object. The object appears to be strangely similar to most modern depictions of a UFO, painted as a dark oval with light rays shooting out from every angle. Now, Now, it wasn't unusual for the time to paint angels or other celestial beings brightly shining down on us from the sky. But as this specific painting appears to have no such addition to the light and is simply a strangely specific flying saucer, it has led many to believe that the painter was depicting a real-life alien sighting. What do you think?
Number 4. Area 51. Of course, I have to bring up Area 51. Would it really be an alien video without mentioning it? Area 51 is a secret US Air Force military installation located at Groom Lake in southern Nevada. It's administered by Edwards Air Force Base in Southern California. The installation has been the focus of numerous conspiracies involving extraterrestrial life, though its only confirmed use is as a flight testing facility. For years, there was speculation about the installation, especially amid growing reports of UFO sightings in the vicinity. The site became known as Area 51. Conspiracy theories gained support in the late 1980s when a man alleging to have worked at the installation claimed the government was examining a recovered alien spacecraft. In 2013, the US government officially acknowledged the existence of Area 51. That year, the National Security Archive at George Washington University obtained through the Freedom of Information Act a formally classified CIA document that chronicled the history of the U-2 spy plane. A heavily redacted version had previously been released in 1998. Now, according to the report, in 1955, the remote site, which included an airfield not used by the military since World War II, was selected in order to test the U-2. Test flights of that spy plane and subsequent aircraft accounted for many of the UFO sightings in the area. The U-2 could reach altitudes much higher than any other planes at a time, but is that just a cover-up? Area 51 is so mysterious, it wouldn't surprise me if they were lying.
Coming in at number 3 is the WOW signal. Back in 1977, astronomer Jerry Eman was researching at the Ohio State University when an incredible and unexplainable radio signal was detected using the school's Big Ear telescope. Now, in those days, information was run through what was called an IBM 1130 mainframe computer before being printed on paper and then studied by hand. Upon reviewing the findings, Jerry came across something he had never seen before. There, in a vertical column, was the sequence 6EQUJ5. Jerry was flabbergasted and immediately circled the sequence and wrote "wow" with an exclamation point right beside it. Hence the name. The signal they picked up had come from nearly 220 million light years away, and there was no explanation as to how or why a radio signal could be detected from that distance. It immediately became a sensation in both the science community and the rest of the world, and was used to support the search for alien life in the universe. Jerry himself says he's convinced that it certainly has the potential to be the first signal from extraterrestrial intelligence, but despite best efforts, no such signal has ever been seen since, which only makes it all the more intriguing.
Number 2. Astronauts have seen them. So there are tons of registered sightings of UFOs, but majority of the time there's a thorough debunking accompanying them, or they're just a plain old hoax. But throughout history, there have been a number that have been harder to explain away. From the 1853 sighting by a number of students and professor at the Tennessee College campus, to the Stephenville Lights case from 2008, with over 200 witnesses spotting the UFO, including 3 policemen. Now, if you're gonna believe any reports of UFOs, you might as well trust those coming from the men who have actually been to space. The list of those who have made claims of sightings include Edgar Mitchell, Katie Coleman, and Dr. Brian O'Leary, many also referencing government knowledge of alien existence and cover-ups. But one experience that stands out is from Buzz Aldrin. He has spoken of his own experience on board the Apollo 11 in 1969 when he said they saw something flying alongside them. At first, they thought it was the final stage of the detached rocket, until Mission Control confirmed it was 6,000 miles away from that. Hey, if you're gonna believe anyone about aliens and UFOs, it should certainly be an astronaut.
And last up today in our number 1 spot is the mysterious men in black. There are several different accounts from people starting around the 1950s where they uncovered something they believed to be linked to proof of alien existence, only to be visited by strange men in black soon after. One of the most famous instances was that of Dr. Albert Bender. Bender was a very intelligent researcher with an interest in aliens and UFOs, so much so that he wrote for a magazine called Space Review and even founded the International Flying Saucer Bureau. It started off very successfully. Bender began to gather lots of alleged evidence related to UFOs, but soon he began to see strange men watching him around his town, reportedly with glowing eyes. Bender wasn't too nervous about the strange phenomenon until one night in 1953 when 3 men in black showed up at his house. The mysterious men looked at first to be government agents, but he soon discovered they were something from a completely different realm. The men made it clear to Bender that he was to immediately stop all UFO research and investigation and to cease any publishing. They then confiscated some of his findings before threatening him once more and vanishing. Bender was so afraid of the experience that he immediately halted all publishings, quit ufology, and turned into a completely different man, terrified of the world and everything in it. Years later, he published a book about his experience with the men in black and then went on to manage a motel and never touched extraterrestrial research ever again.
We'll kick this part 2 off with the tale of a fierce pirate named Jeanne de Clisson. Yeah, she wasn't playing around. De Clisson was born into a wealthy aristocratic family. Her parents, Maurice Montagu and Lettice de Parthenay, they welcomed this little swashbuckler in the 1300s in the French province of Brittany. Starting to get it now. Her first marriage was young, but it had real love, which is a nice change for this time period and, history in general. 10 years later, in 1326, her husband sadly passed away. He was executed for treason by the French king, although it was false claims and all that jazz. It was shady. So she went full on rage mode. She sold everything that she owned, including her land, and then got massive warships and just attacked. She equipped these warships with red sails and everything. She was the pirate queen of the English Channel. For the following 13 years, she would wipe out French fleets. Yeah, we're kicking off this list with pirates. Swashbuckle up. Number 9. Immortal Emperor. Qin Shi Huang was trying to find the key to immortality, but in doing so, he met his fate. The first emperor of China caught wind of old myths about immortality in these 3 spiritual mountains, and living on these mountains were these immortals. So he searched for what's called the elixir of life. This sounds like Legend of Zelda now a little, I'm not gonna lie, I'm into this. He once sent hundreds of young men to the Penglai mountain. They were sent to retrieve this elixir, but they never returned. Pretty mysterious. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that the contact they were supposed to meet was a 1,000-year-old magician, and no one was there. Odd. His next plan was to get his own alchemist to make immortality pills, but unfortunately they were made of mercury, so those pills were now the cause of his death. Don't eat mercury. Let's move on. Number 8, the royal rule. Queen Elizabeth II, still rocking to this day. She's been known for a few cute, quirky queen things, Like one of my favorites, for example, she has somebody on payroll who works there who breaks in new shoes for the queen. That's their job. Every time I buy Vans, my ankle always rubs, If only I were the Queen Elizabeth II. That'd be such a great job, just putting on shoes all day and be like, they feel good. She's so old and sweet, she's like, they look good. One of the craziest things I've ever heard, and the reason why we're on this list today, is that the Queen has a royal rule. Absolutely, positively, no crust on her sandwiches. Or else. This has been a no-go for about 150 years and runs in the family. Honestly, yeah, damn right it has. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, they viewed anything square-shaped as bad luck because it looked like a coffin. I mean, I personally have never thought of funerals while eating grilled cheese sandwiches, but I guess now I will. Thanks, Prince Albert. Imagine that's your job. My hands would be so shaky. I would just eat the crust, just to make sure. I'd do it for the Queen. I'd be like, oh, Your Majesty, yes. Just full of crust mouth. I'm like, that's so dry. Horrible. What a horrible job. I'm gonna cut it off though, I have to just... Number 7, Nero's Golden House. We mentioned the Festival of Drunkenness on part 1, so I had to include Nero's Golden House for part 2. Yeah, history is crazy when you start to hear of these party houses. These rooms specifically made for ancient Roman parties. Nero built one, and it was a massive golden house. He used it every day for years and years just to party and just get drunk and have a good time. We're not even sure how big it was. I mean, some historians say it covered 100 acres of land. This is like Project X in Roman days. It's like Project X LV AD. That's long-awaited prequel right there. There we go. This golden house was in the center of Rome, and it's important to note that this was also the time where people of Rome were starving. This was one of the last things Nero really did before he was pushed out and pushed off the throne. Ah, you don't say. Weird. On top of this golden palace, he had this massive dome, of course containing gold-plated walls and an artificial lake, just all the wrong stuff to be focusing on at this time. Inside this main gold room, there's tons of individual rooms inside, but none of them were bedrooms for anybody. What an absolute waste, they were just empty. He built all this just to party with rich visitors 4 times a week. Yeah, great leader. It's a good leader right there. Number 6, jesters in battle. Being a professional comedian has got to be hard work. You can say 1,000 hilarious, well thought out bits, but one ill-timed tweet that goes a little too far, well, your entire career is gone. See you later. Well, back in the day, being a professional fool or a jester, it was no different. You needed to find the balance of humor and wit, but it was a lot harder back then, if anything. Most of these jesters were given role of advisor to the king and queen. The phrase, "don't shoot the messenger," yeah, this is where it comes from, historically. The jester would have to tell them bad news, but in a positive way, you know? For example, back in 1340, King Philippe IV, his entire fleet was destroyed in a naval battle. The British completely wiped them out. It was an otherwise devastating loss, but the jester, this guy, he brought the news in a positive way. He said to the king, they don't even have the guts to jump into the water like our brave French did. Where if that was some random dude, his knees would be shaking. He has to tell the king horrible news. He's not used to that. Jesters, on the other hand, they're used to farting on the king's lap. They're the ones to advise for sure. No matter what the message was, this jester had to go deliver it in his, quirky tone. Sometimes the jester would kick off an entire battle, middle of a field. He would have to go and demand the opposing side to retreat while also roasting them at the same time. It's the king's way of getting the enemy to attack first, know what I mean? So they send the jester to go and talk. But he's also a jester. He can say whatever he wants to get you riled up. That's the best part. He just runs up like, hey, the king said he doesn't want to fight anymore. Yeah, land's all yours. Apparently he has something called ligma. Number 5, a lot of food. This next one, honestly, I think we could do it, Chris. I'm not gonna lie. The right day, I think we could both probably do this. Back in 1720, the Manchuhan Imperial Feast was the ultimate dining experience. I do all-you-can-eat sushi every now and then with the guys. This was like, whew, next level. Historically, besides a food fest, this was a peace offering between both the Manchu and Han Chinese. The Emperor, Exanui, hosted the celebration on his birthday, which to that I say, great timing. What better way to spend your 66th birthday than to eat 300 different dishes from both parties? Let's do it. Leopard meat, rhino tail, camel humps, just insane items on this menu to begin with, first of all in one go. Yeah, it's not like Caesar salad and then Greek salad and then maybe wings tossed in hot, ooh, to get cheeky. No, it's massive animals, like here's your rhino, what else do you want? Hope you're hungry. One restaurant today still offers those services for such a dinner party, in case you're interested. It only cost you about $54,000, so maybe bring a date? I don't know. Chris, what are you doing after work? Done. Number 4, mouse skin eyebrows. Stuart Little, if you're watching this, you're gonna want to cover those little eyes, trust me. In the 1800s, the cosmetic game was a bit harsh. Yeah, it turns out eyebrows had a rough go. Okay, let's talk about it. Eyebrows back then were completely plucked off in the 1800s in order to make the forehead look bigger. That was the key to finding true love in the 1800s. You just needed a 5 head, apparently. This idea didn't last forever, thankfully, but before it got better, it had to get worse. In the late 17th and early 18th century, ladies would completely shave their eyebrows off and then glue on mouse skin. And the glue game was weak back then too, so you only had one shot. You better eyeball that, you better hope it's good, or else you'll be like, looking like that all day. Good evening, sir. Number 3, heart of glass. Alexandria of Bavaria, the royal who believed she had swallowed a grand piano made of glass. History is wild. The 23-year-old Bavarian princess was quite the scholar. She was known to enjoy literature. It was a hobby of hers, dare I say. But she equally put energy into convincing those around her that she had swallowed a piano made up entirely of glass. When she was a child, she just and ate a piano. So she says. She grew up afraid that her inner piano would shatter. Every time my voice cracked growing up, I should have said that instead. I should have been like, oh, sorry, it's my inner glass piano. It's just untuned. Shut up, man. This was a real issue though. She would enter a room slowly and sideways, like to avoid cracking that personal piano problem. That's wild, imagine seeing this. But just like King Charles VI, he thought he was gonna break at any given moment. Saying you were made of glass was quite an uncommon delusion, but we've seen it in royals more than once, so no one knows what's going on. There's actually a play on this glass delusion. The play is called The Glass Piano by Alex Sobler. It's pretty new, so if you have a chance to support some wild history and theater, go for it. Number 2, the anti-theft briefcase. Morning commutes can be quite hectic, and today we thankfully have slim, safe anti-theft backpacks so you don't have to worry about losing any belongings in your early morning rush. Well, in the late 1950s, they had anti-bandit bags, which had a couple of Neat tricks. You ever want to feel like Inspector Gadget on your way to work? Here you go. The first one came out in 1959. Banks were being robbed while transporting cash quite often, so the smoke bag came out. Red mist would cover the not so smooth criminal or scare them away. Cool. So far we're working. 1963. Here comes the anti-bandit bag. Well, what does this bag do, you ask? Well, at the push of a button, all of the bag's contents will be emptied, just thrown all over the street. Sick. Now that's what I call a solution right there. Hey, give me that file. He's like, ah, take them all. The bag that empties its own contents. Okay, inventor John Rinfret was tired of being robbed all the time, so he designed this briefcase to, as a solution. Where if you turn your thumb the wrong way accidentally, you're hilariously late for work. Yeah, my briefcase almost got stolen and then I had to gather all of my things. Horrible morning, the worst, sorry I'm late. And finally, number 1. Ice Palace. If you liked Frozen, you'll get a kick out of this one. Anna Ivanova, the Empress of Russia from 1730 to 1740. This crazy, okay, let's talk about her. What's going on with this? To celebrate the victory of the Ottoman Empire, Anna gave the order to build an ice house. Sure, out of all the things, that's how we're gonna celebrate. Cool, grab your jackets. Sorry, an ice palace. A palace. It's gotta be big and palace-like. She's a queen who just won battles. If I was there, I would 100% have just licked the walls. I've always wanted to go to an ice hotel and just see how many licks I can get in before getting kicked out. They're like, what's that guy doing? Stop him! The building starts leaning, I'm like, he's ruining the wall. This palace was huge. It was 20 meters by 50 meters, so a lot of ice to lick. And inside there were ice trees, ice birds, and ice, you get the point. To make it even more ridiculous, Anna arranged a marriage with a prince and one of her maids. They didn't know each other, they were forced to ride an elephant together, and on top of that, all the guests were dressed up like clowns. This had to be number 1, right? You see, it was a nightmare. Anna made the guest party all night, freezing cold, literally dressed like clowns. It was so slippery too. Like, they're like, whoa, what a waste of time, what a joke.
10th spot is the late Queen Elizabeth II. So it's no secret that there are quite a lot of people out there who are not fans of the royal family. And while for some it might just be about an overall lack of likeness towards the monarchy, there are many out there whose hatred stems from a deep-seated belief that everyone in the royal family are in fact shape-shifting lizard people. This all started from some footage that was found online of the Queen where some particularly strange eyes seem to appear out of nowhere. In the video, the Queen is standing at what appears to be a game of sorts, and then all of a sudden her eyes change to look almost like some sort of crazy demon. Immediately people were freaked and jumped to the conclusion that it was because she was a shape-shifting lizard. But others blew it off as just her having bloodshot eyes. Now, listen, I don't know about you, but I've never seen a bloodshot eye that was completely black before. I'm just saying. As you can imagine, this footage did not help the royal family's rep of being from the constellation Draco and only further cemented the belief that they are all evil lizards. What do you think? Coming in at number 9 is Katy Perry. So here's the thing about lizard people. They tend to be exclusively pinned on celebrities. Now there is some reasoning behind this. It's because the shapeshifters are supposed to be evil, and so they take over the bodies of celebrities or leaders in order to be able to have the power to wreak havoc on our world. One of the celebs that people swear is a lizard is none other than Miss Teenage Dream herself, Katy Perry. The footage that brought her into this world comes from an interview she did years ago where for just a millisecond it appears like her eyes change color from a sort of blue to green, and just for a second it looks like her pupils turn into slits. Oh, I should mention that apparently a calling card of these lizard people is that they have green eyes, so her eyes supposedly changing to green was seen as proof of her real lizard self peeking through. Suspicious? You tell me. Next up at number 8 is Rihanna. I refuse to believe that Riri could be an evil reptile alien sent here to wreak havoc and cause evil because, number 1, she's like the chillest human ever, and 2, I mean, she's Rihanna, so I don't want it to be true. But it looks like even the good ones aren't safe according to believers of the lizard people. The proof comes from some kinda sus footage from what looks like a live talk show or something, and even though it's a bit blurry, it does look like there's something weird going on. If you pay close attention, it does appear that her eyes turn into slits for just a millisecond before turning back to normal. I mean, should we be worried? Could she really be a lizard person? I mean, even if she was, she would easily be the most beautiful lizard person I've ever seen, so at least there's that. Coming in at number 7 is Angelina Jolie. From what I have come to understand about the conspiracy race of the shape-shifting reptiles that walk the earth with us is that more often than not, it is the eyes that give them away. Maybe their eyes are the hardest to control shape-shifting wise? I'm not totally sure, to be honest, but either way, there are definitely some strange videos out there with some weird things going on in the eyeball region. One of these videos is of A-lister Angelina Jolie. In this particular interview, you can see she's blinking her eyes a ton, which you might not think much of, but when you zoom in really tight and slow down the footage, you can see that there is a half a millisecond where it looks like her pupils elongate into slits before snapping right back into normal. My question is, does the blinking have anything to do with the trying to control their eyes from changing? Again, I have no clue what's true and have no facts to back that up, but the video is for sure a little strange. Next up at number 6 is Shakira. Once again, another pop princess with the voice of an angel has been accused of being one of the evil lizard people sent to destroy the planet. The clip that caused the uproar is from an interview a few years ago where, yep, you guessed it, her eyes slightly changed shape for a millisecond. For starters, her eyes are already quite dark, so it's a little hard to tell at first, but when the video gets slowed down and you zoom in, I will admit I can kind of see where people are going with the whole eyes changing thing. There is a moment where it does kind of look like her pupils shift into a thinner shape, and dare I say the iris kind of goes more coppery? Is that a sign? I have no idea. Truth be told, it might not be quite as obvious as some of the other ones on the list, but nonetheless, there are many out there that insist she is among the shapeshifters. Apparently, it's not just her hips that don't lie, but her eyes too. Coming in at number 5 is Lady Gaga. Okay, let me make one thing very clear. I'm a huge fan of Lady Gaga, like huge. I think she's an amazing artist and just a super badass person. All of that being said, I am fully aware that many people think she's a total weirdo, and like if lizard people did turn out to be real, I could see why people would suspect Gaga to be one. I mean, if anything, what is more camp than being a shape-shifting reptile masquerading as a human, right? The main clip that brought Gaga into the suspect list of shapeshifters was from a live interview several years back, and just like almost every alleged lizard person, the clues were in her eyes. Now, first off, her eye makeup, gorgeous, but if you peer a little deeper into those eyes, you might notice something kinda looks off. She looks down for a second, blinks her eyes, and then just ever so slightly you can see that it looks like her pupils change shape and get slightly thinner for a second. Then boom, back to normal. Also, she did once say in an interview that she has always loved to shapeshift. I mean, she was talking about her hair and makeup, but was it a clue? Is this solid proof she's a lizard person from the constellation of Draco? I guess it depends on who you ask. Next up at number 4 is Isaiah Carey. Several years back in 1995, there was a reporter for NBC who became an overnight sensation after a hilarious video of him swallowing a grasshopper aired during a live broadcast. People kind of fell in love with him because he had such a huge reaction and totally switched up his entire demeanor after he accidentally swallowed the bug. However, not too long after, some people noticed something was a little off about the video, and some even started to wonder if swallowing the bug was an accident at all. What's strange about this video is that if you pay close enough attention, kinda looks like his tongue is actually aiming for the bug, just like a frog reaching for a fly. Not to mention, he has quite a big tongue compared to most people, and it kinda looks a little pointy. Either way, after he swallows the bug, he immediately turns away from the camera, and some have suggested this is to hide any further evidence that he was actively shapeshifting at the time. But also, I would probably turn away from a camera if a bug flew into my mouth without warning too. I don't know, man. Either way, the video is hilarious, so let me know what you think. Evil reptile or funny human? Coming in at number 3 is a mysterious creature. So this video is definitely one of the weirder ones on this list, cause like actually what the heck is happening? Inside what appears to be some sort of cave, a pair of glowing orb eyeball things peek out from behind the wall, but when when whoever is actually holding the camera advances on them, they quickly retreat back behind the wall. Like, not gonna lie, it's kind of creepy. The creature then continues to peek out to see if the cameraman is gone before stepping out completely, showing its unnerving form, and then suddenly bolting away deeper into the cave, never to be seen again. Now, the real question, of course, what is it? Is it a shapeshifter, a weird alien, some other weird thing we have never heard of or seen before? I mean, all I know is I would not want to see that alone in a dark cave by myself. I just have a bad feeling it would kill me and eat my flesh. I'm just saying. Coming in at number 2, a security guard. It goes without saying that presidents are not going to really go anywhere without their security guards. But what do we really know about their security? And if there is reason to believe that politicians themselves are a part of the alien lizard race, then wouldn't it make sense that their protection would be too? Well, speaking of, back in 2012, during a speech made by President Obama, footage of the audience captured a peculiar looking security guard in the crowd. At first glance, you might think it's just like a pale, bald dude standing there, but when they pan to the side, it straight up looks like he has no ears. I mean, what is going on here? It's giving Voldemort, if you ask me. Even weirder is when the video zooms in. If you really pay attention, it kind of looks like his head is pulsating, which, truth be told, I have no clue what that could be about, but lots of people have come forward saying it's definitely footage of him shape-shifting right before our eyes. I mean, would that mean that everyone in the CIA is a lizard person, or just a select few? I want to know how it's decided what people get taken over by the alien lizard overlords. What is their system is all. I'm just wondering. And last up today in our number 1 spot is Timothy Geithner. As I mentioned, it's not just A-list movie star celebs that have been accused of being a part of the lizard race taking over mankind. Among some of the most accused are politicians and even the staff that work under them. Former Secretary of the Treasury under President Obama's presidency is among one of those that some have come to believe is a dangerous lizard person hiding behind the face of a human man. The clip that raised some eyebrows and added him into the long list of potential involved personnel came from some kind of speech, and it definitely is very odd. Unlike most of the others on this list, it wasn't his eyes that had people questioning him, but the skin surrounding them. For a moment in the video, it looks like Timothy shifts into his reptile form, and the scales begin to show through the skin around his eyes, until suddenly he touches his face and it magically disappears. Like, could this be faked? I mean, of course it could, it's the internet. But like, was it? Or is it just a really super creepy video proving an alien race of lizard people? You tell me, man.
Create a video using exactly this script. Want to see even more videos like this one? Check out part 2 of this series right now by clicking on the video you see on the screen now. There were even more crazy men in black encounters that will blow your mind. See you in the next video.